So you've now learnt the advantages of having a no-dig garden, and as you know, we do that here. And when we first came here, one of the first things I did was buy this, and I call this a Dalek. And basically, it's a very easy way of making compost. You throw all your materials into there, and when it's ready, you can lift up this lid to get your compost out, and there'll be another lid like this on the base. There's the hole, so you can dig your compost out. It's 5 years old and it's standing the test of time, but I need a lot more compost than this is going to produce me because of the size of my growing space. So let's take a look at my setup. Now, before I show you my system here, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tidy up, and while I do that, take a look at this video because it's going to give you some very simple ways to make your own black gold, as us growers call it. So have a look, and I'll see you in a minute.
What if I told you that the best thing for your garden isn't something you buy at a store? What if I told you that you probably threw it in the trash this morning? This is the dirty secret to a perfect garden, and it's 100% free. In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn your everyday kitchen scraps into what gardeners call black gold. We're going to use the simple, natural power of decomposition. You don't need any fancy equipment, you don't need a science degree, and I promise you'll never look at your garbage can the same way again. Stick around because this is going to change your garden for the better forever. So why bother with what looks like a pile of garbage? The answer is simple. By doing this, you're going to save money, help the planet, and get the best soil you've ever had. First and most obviously, this is free fertilizer. Think about how much we spend every year on bags of compost, soil amendments, and fertilizers. It adds up. Yet every single day, we throw away the raw materials for something way better. By making our own compost, we're creating a top-shelf soil amendment for free, which means you can stop buying a lot of those other expensive products. Second, and this is a big one, you are literally fighting climate change from your kitchen. When food scraps and yard waste get thrown in the trash, they're hauled to a landfill. Trapped under piles of garbage without oxygen, they break down and release methane, a greenhouse gas that is incredibly damaging to our atmosphere. But when we compost, we let oxygen into the process. This is called aerobic decomposition, and it almost completely stops that methane from ever being created. You're not just making soil, you're stopping pollution. And third, you are building what I call super soil. Compost isn't just plant food, it's a total soil makeover. It adds rich organic matter that gives your soil a fantastic new structure. This helps it hold on to moisture, meaning you'll water less and your plants will be tougher during those dry spells. It also prevents erosion and attracts all the good guys, like earthworms and beneficial microbes, that create a thriving, living ecosystem right under your feet. I know this might sound complicated. You're hearing words like decomposition and microbes and thinking this is some advanced science experiment. I promise you it's not. The whole magical process of making compost really just comes down to balancing two things, your greens and your browns. Let's start with the greens. These are the nitrogen-rich materials. Think of them as the gas pedal for your compost pile. They provide the protein and energy that get all the tiny microbes fired up and working hard. Greens are typically wet and fresh. We're talking about all your fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, used tea bags, fresh grass clippings, and even garden weeds that haven't gone to seed. Next up, the browns. These are your carbon-rich materials. Think of these as the fluffy structural part of the pile. They provide bulk, and more importantly, they create air pockets that let oxygen flow through everything. Browns are, as you'd guess, typically brown and dry. This includes stuff like fallen leaves, small twigs, straw, shredded newspaper, and my personal favorite, torn up cardboard from all those shipping boxes. The secret to fast, smell-free composting is getting the balance right. You don't need a calculator. A good rule of thumb is to aim for about 2 to 3 parts browns for every 1 part greens. An even easier way to think of it is like making lasagna. you put down a layer of greens, and then you cover it completely with a nice thick layer of browns. If you just remember that one simple rule, always cover your greens with browns, you'll avoid nearly every common compost making problem. This mix of greens and browns creates the perfect buffet for an army of microscopic workers. Bacteria and fungi feast on these materials, and as they work, they generate a surprising amount of heat. A healthy compost pile can get steaming hot in the center, and it's this heat that speeds up decomposition and helps destroy any unwanted weed seeds or bad bacteria. Okay, before we get our hands dirty and actually build our first compost pile, if you're finding this useful and want to learn more ways to create a beautiful, thriving garden for free, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button down below. It really helps the channel out, and it means you won't miss what's coming next. All right, let's get to the fun part. Let's build this thing, and you absolutely do not need a fancy, expensive tumbler or bin. You can literally just start a pile on the bare ground. If you want a little more structure, a simple ring of chicken wire or an enclosure made from old pallets works perfectly. Just pick a spot that's easy to get to, maybe in a shady corner of your yard. Step 1. Build your foundation. We're making lasagna, remember? So, let's start with a solid base. Lay down a 4 to 6 inch layer of chunky brown materials first. Twigs, small branches, or torn up cardboard are perfect for this. Step 2. Add your first layer of greens. Now for the good stuff. Take your bucket of kitchen scraps, your fresh grass clippings, or whatever greens you've collected, and spread them in a layer over your brown foundation. Step 3. Cover it with browns. This is the most important step, so I'll say it again. Always, always cover your greens with a layer of browns. Grab your dry leaves, shredded paper, or straw, and add a layer that's at least twice as thick as your green layer. Make sure those greens are completely covered. This one move is your best defense against pests and odors. Step 4. A little sprinkle of water. The microbes doing all the heavy lifting need water to live. Your compost pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge, moist but not dripping wet. If your materials are super dry, especially the browns, just give the pile a light sprinkle with a hose as you build each layer. Too dry and the process stalls. Too wet and it can get stinky and gross. Step 5. Repeat and be patient. And that's basically it. You've started. Now you just keep repeating the process. Every time you have kitchen scraps, add them to the pile and cover them with browns. To speed things up, you can turn the pile with a pitchfork every couple of weeks to mix everything and add a blast of fresh oxygen. But if that sounds like too much work, you can just leave it alone. A no-turn pile will still turn into beautiful compost. It'll just take a little longer. I know what some of you are thinking. What if it smells? What if it attracts rats? These are the most common fears that stop people from even trying, but I promise you they are incredibly easy to prevent and fix. If your pile ever smells sour or like rotting garbage, the diagnosis is simple. Your ratio is off. The fix is just as simple. Add more browns. Toss on a thick layer of dry leaves or shredded cardboard and, if you can, mix it in a bit. Pests are almost always drawn to exposed food. First, make sure you are not adding any meat, dairy, or oily foods to your pile. Those are magnets for unwanted visitors. Second, solve this by following our golden rule. Bury your kitchen scraps deep in the center of the pile and always cover them with a thick blanket of brown materials. If they can't see it or smell it, they won't come looking for it. If your pile isn't breaking down or heating up, it's usually one of two things. It's either too dry or it's starving for greens. Grab a handful from the center. If it feels dry and crumbly, give the whole pile a good deep watering. If it's moist but still cold, it probably needs a nitrogen kick. Add a fresh layer of greens like grass clippings or a big batch of coffee grounds to get the microbial party started again. After a few months, or maybe closer to a year for a lazy, no-turn pile, you'll start to see an amazing transformation. When you dig into the bottom of your pile, it won't look like old vegetable peels and leaves anymore. It will look like this, a dark, rich, crumbly material that smells earthy and sweet, like a forest floor after a good rain. This is it. This is the black gold we've been waiting for. It's finished compost packed with nutrients and life. To harvest it, just dig out the finished stuff from the bottom of the pile. You can sift it through a simple screen if you want a finer product, or just use it as is. Any big chunks that aren't fully broken down can just be tossed back on top of the pile to finish their journey. So, the dirty secret is out. The key to an amazing garden wasn't really a secret at all. It's a simple, beautiful, natural process that you can start today for free. By turning your waste into compost, you're not just giving your plants the best food imaginable. You are cutting down on landfill waste, improving your soil for years to come, and doing something truly positive for the planet. You now have everything you need to know to turn your trash into treasure. It really is that easy.
Now, the video you've just been watching gave you the basics on how to make your own compost. I'm going to give you a brief oversight as to what I do with mine here. Now, I've got the pallet set up because I need a lot of compost. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you don't need that much, you can use one of these Daleks. And I'll put a link to where you can buy those on Amazon in the description below. You're going to recall that we are running an Amazon type affiliation system here, where if you do buy anything from these links that I give you, you don't pay any more, but we earn a little bit of a commission, which helps the channel. So if you do that, I'll be really grateful. Now back to this. One thing it didn't mention in the videos, having one of these is really handy. So if you're looking at this, you can see that the temperatures are in Fahrenheit. Now obviously it's out of the heap at the minute, so it's indicating that just above 18 it's steady. Go up to 100 to 120 Fahrenheit is active, and above that it's saying hot. Now this is a good indicator for your compost. Now in this particular bed here, I filled this section up probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and you can see that it's dropped quite considerably because it was roughly in line with this white post here, and I've covered it with polystyrene boards to help keep the heat in. Having said that, when I put in the temperature probe, it's just reading between 80 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's steady, but if we pull this drawer back and look inside there, you can see how it looks like that lasagna we were talking about in the video. Now on the side of your compost, you're never going to have decomposition there. It's always going to be in the center. I'm going to push that up a bit for now, but it is dropping down, and to get those sides to decompose, we're going to want to turn it. But this is what I do. I've started a second bay here, and that's because I'm getting a lot of material from the vegetable garden. The harvest is finishing, and there's also some weeding to be done. It's all going in here, and I'm getting leaves beginning to fall off the trees. So I'm getting a great addition to the brown materials. Now, there's another thing that people don't often mention, and that is what's called a compost accelerator. And that's the secret weapon we're going to be using in a second. But in this grass collector here, I've got a mixture of grass and also leaves. And what I found, I don't want to make leaf mold because it just takes too long. And whilst leaf mold is great, the leaves create the fungal growth that we want. Let's call it the fungus, the fun guys, the happy people. So I want to get that in there. It's a bit of a brown addition, which is great. But because I've picked it up using the mower, I've mixed it in with grass. And when you add grass to your compost, it speeds up, accelerates the process. Now this is a bag of just ordinary grass clippings, and I'm going to throw that in there as well. Okay. Now I cut this yesterday afternoon. I'm taking this out by hand, and I can feel that it's quite hot. In fact, I'm just going to grab that thermometer. Hopefully this won't fall off. Let's pop that in there. And it's already racing past 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm looking at that, and within 12 hours this has already raced up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So great fresh grass clippings you can class as an accelerator to get the compost going. I can feel the heat in this. So just like the video you've just been watching, lasagna type this bag is seeing better days. I want to get that evenly spread. There is some heat in that, like so. Now, if you haven't already got one, get yourself one of these, a pitchfork, because you can reach in, spread it out. Homemade lasagna is never perfect. Neither is your compost. Right, we got that. Now, we want some browns. Now, under normal circumstances, I would chop this up, make it a bit finer, but it will still rot down. It's not a major disaster. Remember from the video, you can add compost, you can add cardboard, torn up cardboard. Make sure there's no shiny bits to it, make sure there's no shiny inks on it, no sellotapes, anything like that. That can go on. We put wood ash from the wood burning stove on here because we burn untreated wood. You could put the remains of your barbecue in there as well. Again, if you're not using any chemicals to light a barbecue, it can all go on. So it's a lot more stuff can go on here rather than just what we just seen in the video. And then, if it's a bit dry, you can use this stuff. Now this is a liquid accelerator, compost accelerator. Again, there'll be a link in the description as to where you can buy one relevant to your country that covers the same qualities as this. It's not certified as being organic, but it kind of is, because it's a living bacteria. You add it to 5 litres of water, and then you basically water your compost, because it will need some moisture. So this 5 litres will be enough to kick that on. Now over the next few weeks, I'm going to keep adding to this, and then when it gets to a certain point, I'll then be transferring that across into there, and then wrapping it up for winter, and then come next spring, I'll have my own compost to add onto the vegetable patches. I hope you found that interesting, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.